Thanks for staying with us. So joining us on the show is an environmentalist to speak on ways of enhancing and imbibing a pedestrian-friendly environment in our society, ultimately to improve our walking culture, which is an immense benefit to our health. Welcome with us, Mr. Gbenga Onabanjo. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you on the show.
It's my pleasure to be here with you this morning. And
so
I'm quite excited being with these lovely ladies.
Thank you. You're a fan of the show, I know, for many years.
I'm a fan of the show. Right.
So there's something called the Walkability Index, which is rating how much walking people actually engage in various communities. And before, I hate company referring to Fashion last time in Lagos, because before then, we didn't have a lot of walkways. But during that time, he was surprised. I remember Pastor Ito of my church, was my pastor then. And he was saying, somebody just came, become a governor and told him we have walkways everywhere. I mean, he just converted everywhere to walkways. And now people are walking. We didn't realize how much people needed to walk until Fashola put those walkways there. So it was an eye-opener for us at the time. But since then, we haven't really seen a lot of walkways. Government hasn't really improved on that. In your view as an environmentalist, what's the importance of pedestrian walking? And why is this such an important part of our health?
Yeah, basically the human being is not a sedentary animal. We're designed, we're wired to be active.
Wow.
And the easiest means of being active is putting one foot after the other on a regular basis. So that pumps your heart, makes your heart healthy. And in Nigeria, particularly because of our size, it's important that we get that aspect right, because there's so many things we're grappling with. And if we're able to take that aspect out of it, it's going to help us in a lot of ways that we could not even imagine. I'm happy this happened during Fashola, and we could see that he was able to achieve it. So it's not rocket science. It's something that is achievable, given the political will and the interest. All the two Fashola was traveling to Singapore for this bar association, World Bar Association, and realized everywhere was clean and green and orderly. And he vowed to replicate that in Lagos. And he had able men to support him, to carry the vision. And within 3 years, there was transformation. Everybody bought into it. You see, the pedestrian-friendly environment is such that it would activate a lot of things within us. It makes us more productive. It makes us happier. It reduces crime rate, in the land, because in the course of your moving around, you meet with people. It fosters relationship.
You get to know them.
Get to know them.
Yeah, so
for people who are looking for boyfriends, it's easy to.
Please, go ahead, this is.
So, how do you think we can change the mindset? I remember growing up, and I had to trek every day from my house to school and back. And it seemed to me at the time that I was trekking because my father didn't have a car. It's rich people that their parents drop off in school. And over the years, I realized that a lot of us, have that mindset that working is for the poor, being in cars, luxury cars is for the rich. And now we hear that working is good for us. And I'm wondering, at what everything is just changing. We hear this today, and in a few years' time, it changes back. How do we begin to educate people to change the mindset that working is for everybody and we are meant to work like you have said? What are some of the things that we can start doing now to encourage more people to imbibe working?
The first thing is education. See, when you don't know a thing, you're ignorant about it, you'd not want to imbibe it. But where the merits of walking are clearly spelled out, that look, when you walk, the tendency that you live longer is very high. When you walk, you be able to be free. It helps your bowel movement. It makes you stronger. It clears your head. You're able to think. For instance, at least 3-4 times a week, I do a minimum of 5 kilometers every day.
Wow.
And I could see that it helps my writing skills.
Is that why you're fit, sir? Because you look fit.
I've been like this since I was in university.
Wow.
So my mates back in the school, right? We had a 50-year reunion sometime last year. And everybody recognized me because I hadn't changed.
Wow.
You know, every other fellow, gray-haired, pot belly, and all that.
Wow.
And everybody said, oh, Gbenga, you're still the same way you looked 50 years ago.
Wow.
And I believe it's part of it, the lifestyle that I've engaged in for over a long time. Sometimes when I travel abroad, I walk as far as 15 kilometers during weekends.
Because the environment was more...
Oh, excellent,
I don't
excellent.
know. See, I feel like if I don't say this, if my husband is watching, he's going to be very upset. So my husband loves to work out, but at the weekends, every Sunday, he walks different parts of Lagos.
Good.
Last Sunday, he walked from Surulere to Maryland and back.
Wow,
Wow.
that's lovely.
So that's what he does every time, you know, every weekend. I just feel like I have to say that if he's watching, so that, you know, kudos to you. But I want to say that, you know, you were mentioning something about being educated, being knowledgeable. And the reason why someone like Fashola would remember that to build walkways is because he had that knowledge. And for me, I feel that right now, the knowledge is still very much amongst a certain group of people. So we do walks. We do the cancer walk, we do the blue walk, you know, when it seems very...
Convenient.
What's the word? Not convenient, like a posh walk, you know. It's not what we do every day. And even though people find themselves walking, it's like, especially in Lagos, it's like you're walking and yes, in between bikes, in between manholes, you know, you have to be careful. What should the government do at government, state government level to work on what Fashola had already started?
Not just Lagos State, across the country also.
Right. I think you should start from local government, your immediate community. Once the awareness is out there, people see it, then they take it on. Take, for instance, in Magodo, it's one of the few estates that have sidewalks. Unfortunately, at the time it was built, the roads were quite wide, but the sidewalks were very tiny. And a lot of people didn't know the essence
Of the sidewalk.
of the sidewalks.
Wow.
And therefore, particularly in my street, you know what they did? They all planted palms. They wanted to make it a palm avenue.
Oh.
So you see on the sidewalks rows of palms. You know,
Right.
now it's about enlightenment, education. If you do something and you assume that people will know how it's going to be used, you're making a mistake. There's a need for you to prepare their minds and tell them, this is what you benefit from this is how you use this. Because when you don't know the use of a thing, it's subject to abuse.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot of neuroscience research backing the benefits of walking.
Good.
In terms of brain function, in terms of mood,
Cognitive
abilities. Improvements.
Good.
Also in terms of people that are getting older, that the more they take those walks, the more they engage in learning something new, it improves. Their bodies won't degenerate at the rate with which it happens. However, we can complain that we don't have the conducive environment, but how do we raise the campaign? Because I remember during the Obama's regime, firstly, Michelle's campaign was Move Your Body. She went all around America getting people to move because of the rate of obesity, dance, get out. What do you think we can do as a society to create that awareness, like a health consciousness campaign, walking campaign?
Yeah, I actually believe that there is no better time to do that than now. A lot of us hop onto the Okadas, the Marwas, and there's such a nuisance in the environment. However, the distances we cover, hopping onto these tractions, we can walk it.
You sweat too.
And you sweat, yeah, it's good for you.
And get dirty when you get to where you are headed.
I just also realized that.
Because I know you're an engineer,
I'm an
you're an
architect.
environmentalist, you're an architect, actually. Yeah, you're a pastor.
I'm a pastor.
I mean, I just somebody just telling me now that can you to introduce my pastor as Mr. He's pastor, not a Mr. It's okay. So, but you're an environmentalist, and I'd like you to share some of your knowledge as an environmentalist, because we don't really pay attention to our environment, planting trees. I know she's been telling us all the time that we need to be caring for the vultures, the environment, and she walks her talk. But as an expert in this field, what can you tell us as citizens, Nigerians, not just Lagosians, how important is the green in our environment? Why do we need to have these walkways and also have the fresh air from the green plant? Why do we need trees around us? Please remind us.
You don't know the immense benefits that you derive when you go green. To me, green is the best color. Green is it. A tree would give you the oxygen you require in a lifetime, okay? The trees do purify the air so that when you have trees around you, it sifts the impurities around and you could get fresh air. In my house, you'll be shocked if you come in there. The way the trees are put, and because I'm an architect, oftentimes I don't need to put on the air conditioner because I trap the air and the air is fresh. Of course, I also do certain things to trap dust, because our environment is dusty. If we keep a clean environment, we can reduce the dust. That's why I carried a number of initiatives within my zone. We have what you call Clean Street, Healthy Neighbor campaign on a regular basis, 6 times a year. We have a stitch in time. In other words, your road.
That's your own community. So we can all do this in our various communities.
It can become an estate-wide, a statewide stuff, We have Mind the Gutter, what else do you have? Stir up the dust, We just don't pick and we don't sweep. We actually blow the dust, put them together, and make sure that the whole street is clean. You see, particularly people that have respiratory disease, that's when you know that, this thing's, the cleaner is very important. I'll give you a classic example. Somebody left our area because his status was good. He hadn't gotten an MBA from MIT. And so the employer said, look, you're not fit for this neighborhood again. Come over to the island. Within 3 months after they got there, they had to return back to Magodo. Why? The children were falling sick because the drains were not flowing. And they were having malaria and stuff like that. So, see, a lot of us don't know what we're missing, But when we do keep a decent, a clean environment, it goes a long way. Health is wealth.
I need to ask you this question because yesterday I was watching the headquarters of Apple, and because of you're an architect, then they were also talking about the new second HQ for Amazon. And you would listen to the architects describing in detail how they are planting trees around the headquarters.
Deliberate.
The Apple headquarters has a massive area of land that is just for planting trees, forests, to encourage clean air.
Right.
So we have a lot of companies in Nigeria that they cut all the trees to build their things, and they don't even plant. So isn't that deliberate? What can the Architectural Society of Nigeria or something do to sort of like inculcate that habit of planting? Singapore has its deliberate. All the buildings have plants on their rooftop. What can we do in Nigeria to improve that?
To do that, I think the government has a role to play. You have to legislate. Okay? Make sure that if you cut a tree, you plant 6 more. And you'll be penalized. Because there are values in those trees. That's one. After legislation, you educate and enlighten people so that they embrace it and take ownership because they will see the benefits. But when you don't do things like that, it's difficult. People have other issues which will cloud them. It's a survival thing. But we don't all have to think of that. There are certain people that should keep pushing that aspect of the environment because it helps us a great deal.
Okay, sir. Let me talk about the safety of people who are walking. It's a major problem, especially in a city like Lagos, where we have the keke napep, we have the bikes who will go on the walkway to avoid traffic. And then it endangers people who decide to walk. What do you think the government can do in terms of enforcement to say, okay, this is a walkway. If we see you here, we're not going to take this, to encourage more people to walk? Because I wouldn't release my kids to walk when I know that an Okada rider can just come from somewhere.
I'll let you answer that question after this break. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So we still have Engineer Onabanjo with us. Architect, I do apologize. Architect Onabanjo with us on the show. So Bisi was asking concerning
the safety of people who walk on the streets. Yes. What the government can do about
you'd notice that a few areas where we do have sidewalks. They're slightly elevated more than the usual, okay? So that's part of the safety measure they're trying to put in place. And the other thing is legislation, enlightenment, then enforcement. When you enforce and you make certain people scapegoats, then it sends a message across. But where there's no enforcement of the rule of law, then people will do anything
Even
they
zebra
want to.
crossing. People don't even enforce
We don't
it.
even know what it means
Yeah.
here.
We had a skit. We had this splash over the weekend, and we had a competition among secondary schools. And the children portrayed it so succinctly that I was so impressed. They had a skit of a student. She used herself. She wanted to cross the pedestrian crossing, right? And for about 5 minutes, she was going back and forth. The vehicles didn't stop for her to cross. You know, she literally won the first prize because it was so real. Meanwhile, there was another video of a dog in one of the civilized climes. He waited at the pedestrian crossing. When the light showed green, he wanted to cross. Meanwhile, virtually all our junctions currently in Lagos, hardly would you find one light for pedestrians. You see for vehicles, but for pedestrians, there's camper once the light is on. It's not on. The pedestrian is king. That should be the first thing you put at the signalized junctions, not the green and yellow light, but for the pedestrian.
This reminds me of something quite funny. Some years ago in London, I was crossing the road with a relative that had just come from Nigeria.
Right.
And the car stopped way before it even got close to us. These people are different. So you mean the car stopped for you people to
The
cross?
pedestrian is king.
I could not believe it. Yeah, so the thing is, many of us here have asked the question, what should government do? How can government do this? And I think really government is us.
Right.
So if we are not ourselves educated and do not have the knowledge, when we become government, we are unable to enforce, you know, what is right. So I think, although you already mentioned, like, you engage children, but like, what can we do also in our different communities? You know, so we are teaching each other, we're teaching our children, we're teaching our friends, and so that when we go out into the bigger community, we're able to enforce what we have learned.
Yeah, simple. Imbibe this attitude that you want to learn. Let's have more NGOs that would focus on that as opposed to the other flogged issues. You know, you see the NGO there in certain areas. But environment is very, very key. We need more NGOs. We need a critical mass that would educate the people. Nigeria is such a huge and vast nation. We're heavily populated. So we need several NGOs. We need a lot of the banks or institutions or corporate bodies to also play in that space. Right. We don't have enough players in that space. They're too few and far in between. That's why the impact is not felt.
Thank you very much. We have to wrap up on this. But is there any final message again you want to add anything to that? I think that's it.
I think I want this vocabulary or this acronym to now begin to trend. The PFE, Pedestrian-Friendly Environment.
Pedestrian-friendly environment.
Yes, PFE.
PFA.
So that the pedestrian satisfaction experience, you know, everybody can begin to look forward to it.
Some pedestrians, they act as if they're walking in their bedroom. They're come out for this road now. They're just dragging their feet.
That's a good point. Again, there's a minimum width for pedestrian walkway.
Okay.
Such that you can have a lot of people walking abreast.
Oh.
Oftentimes, our walkways are too small. Too narrow.
Okay.
And we need high streets like Oxford, where you have about 4 meters, 5 meters pedestrian. Even when you are selling, you're not disturbing anybody.
Yeah.
But here, it's so narrow. And most of our new cities, developed places, take for instance, Adeonkaya, Awolowo Road. You can turn them to high street with wide pedestrian walkways. You are moving from one shop front to the other.
Yes.
It increases profit, increases patronage and stuff like that.
Right, that's
you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Just
But in the villages,
That's so true.
where many of us are from, we just walk.
We walk.
They walk, but there are no pedestrian walkways. They walk on the road.
Yeah.
So I think create the walkways.
create the walkway for
All right,
order.
that's what we can take on
PFE.
this. I hope you learned a few things. Let's go on a break. When we come back, we discuss other issues on wellness. Stay with us. We'll be right back.